February 1945. The Reich is collapsing, and in Lower Silesia, near Wałbrzych, the Nazis make one last shipment disappear. Witnesses describe a freight train slipping into a mountain tunnel under SS guard. Polish forced laborers watched from afar as armed men sealed off the entrance. Some swear the train was over 100 meters long. Others remember it shorter. But they agree on what happened next. Controlled explosions, a deliberate collapse, the tunnel mouth buried under tons of rock. The train never emerged. For decades, that's been dismissed as a local legend. The Nazi gold train stuffed with stolen treasure and swallowed by the earth. But this myth is anchored to something rarer than rumor: records. Soviet files from 1945 describe interrogations of German railway officials who spoke of special transports moving Reichsbank valuables into the mountains. American intelligence confirms the Nazis evacuated enormous quantities of looted wealth as Allied armies closed in. And Polish investigators found sealed tunnels, demolished entrances, plus testimony that never quite went away. Something went in. Nothing came out. So was there truly a treasure train entombed beneath Lower Silesia? Or was this story a decoy, meant to hide what the Nazis didn't want found? We're going into the mountain to find out. The systematic theft began long before the war. On November 9th, 1938, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, Nazi stormtroopers smashed through Jewish homes and businesses across Germany and Austria. They took everything: family silver wrapped in prayer shawls, jewelry boxes passed down through generations, art collections assembled over lifetimes. In the aftermath, the regime imposed a collective atonement fine of 1 billion Reichsmarks on Germany's Jewish population and accelerated forced sales of businesses and property, the process the Nazis called Aryanization. What couldn't be legally stolen was simply confiscated. But this was only the beginning. As German tanks rolled across Europe, a more organized operation followed in their wake. The Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, Reichsleiter Rosenberg's task force, was established with a primary purpose: the systematic looting of cultural treasures from occupied territories. Art historian Alfred Rosenberg, one of Hitler's earliest supporters, commanded teams that swept through France, Poland, the Netherlands, and beyond. They targeted Jewish families first, then museums, then private collections of anyone deemed an enemy of the Reich. Among their victims in Paris was Paul Rosenberg, no relation to Alfred Rosenberg, a prominent Jewish art dealer whose collection included works by Picasso, Matisse, and Braque. The Nazis seized 162 paintings from his gallery alone. Across France, approximately 100,000 artworks were looted or sold under duress during the occupation. Hermann Göring, Hitler's second-in-command and himself a voracious art collector, made around 20 visits to the Jeux de Paume Museum between 1940 and 1942 for the express purpose of selecting pieces for his personal collection. Photographs from the era show him inspecting stolen masterpieces, marking chosen works for transport to his estate at Carenhall. But one woman was watching. Rose Valland, a French museum employee, worked at the Jeux de Paume during the occupation. Secretly, she documented every shipment, recording which artworks went where and on which trains. She memorized Nazi conversations about destinations and hiding places. The Germans never suspected her. A quiet clerk, they assumed, who understood no German. She understood perfectly. After the war, Valland's meticulous records would help recover thousands of stolen artworks. But not all of them, not even close. The Reich's hunger extended beyond art. Central banks fell to German occupation and were immediately emptied. When Belgium fell in May 1940, Nazi officials gained access to Belgian gold reserves, much of which Belgium had moved to France and then onward, only to have portions captured anyway when France fell. Estimates suggest Belgium lost approximately 198 tons of monetary gold through Nazi seizure and forced transactions. The Netherlands faced similar plunder. Dutch gold remaining in Amsterdam was shipped to Berlin. Poland's situation was more complex. The government had evacuated much of its gold reserve via Romania before Warsaw fell in 1939, but Nazi occupation brought systematic confiscation of assets left behind and brutal economic exploitation of what remained. Gold from individual victims flowed through an even more sinister channel. In concentration camps and extermination centers, the belongings of murdered Jews were collected with industrial efficiency. Gold teeth were extracted from corpses. Wedding rings were pulled from fingers. The Nazis established a special account at the Reichsbank called Melmer, named after SS Captain Bruno Melmer, who made regular deliveries of what the bank's records euphemistically called second-hand valuables. Between August 1942 and early 1945, Melmer made 76 documented deliveries to the Reichsbank. Each delivery contained gold, jewelry, currency, and other precious items taken from those killed at Auschwitz, Majdanek, and other death camps. One early delivery, bank records show, contained thousands of gold watches and wedding rings, along with large quantities of dental gold. This was one shipment. There were 75 more documented, and likely others never recorded. By 1944, as the tide of war turned decisively against Germany, the Reich possessed stolen wealth of almost incomprehensible value. Then came the question that would spawn the legend of the gold train. Where do you hide an empire's worth of stolen treasure when your empire is collapsing? In the late summer of 1943, Albert Speer, Hitler's chief architect and minister of armaments, received an urgent directive. The Allied bombing campaign was intensifying. Berlin could no longer be considered safe. The Reich needed new facilities, underground, bomb-proof, and secret. The solution lay in the Owl Mountains of Lower Silesia, a remote region of dense forest and hard rock, now part of southwestern Poland, but then the easternmost territory of Germany proper. Project Riese, German for giant, became one of the most ambitious underground construction efforts of the Second World War. Using forced labor from the Gross-Rosen concentration camp network, the Nazis began excavating an enormous tunnel system beneath the mountains around Wałbrzych. Thousands of prisoners worked 12-hour shifts drilling into solid rock, shoring up tunnels with concrete and steel, and excavating chambers large enough to house factories, command centers, and storage facilities. The human cost was staggering. Estimates suggest around 5,000 forced laborers died during construction, victims of starvation, disease, accidents, and execution. The official purpose, according to declassified German documents, was to create bomb-proof facilities for armaments of production and military headquarters. But the scale and secrecy of Project Riese suggested something more. 7 separate tunnel complexes were excavated across a wide area. At Książ Castle, a magnificent 13th-century fortress overlooking Wałbrzych, workers began converting the structure and excavating tunnels beneath it. Some tunnels were reinforced with concrete walls 5 feet thick. Underground chambers were equipped with ventilation systems, electrical wiring, and, critically, railway access. Testimony from surviving forced laborers describes sections of tunnel sealed off even from most workers. Special SS units supervised these restricted areas. One survivor, recounting his experience to Polish historians in 1965, described being ordered to help lay railway track deep into one tunnel system, then watching as German engineers sealed the entrance with explosives, collapsing the tunnel mouth and concealing its location. Railway infrastructure was central to Project Riese. Standard gauge tracks connected the tunnel complexes to main rail lines running through Lower Silesia. Heavy concrete bunkers were constructed at tunnel entrances with reinforced doors capable of being sealed from inside. Most tellingly, the German Reich railways, the Reichsbahn, assigned special transport units to the region in late 1944 and early 1945, precisely when the need to evacuate valuables from Berlin and other threatened cities became desperate. By January 1945, the Red Army launched the Vistula-Oder offensive, pushing Soviet forces westward at terrifying speed. What had been distant front lines became immediate threats. In Berlin, officials in the Reichsbank and the Reich Finance Ministry faced a crisis. The gold reserves, the stolen art, the accumulated wealth of the Reich, all of it was at risk. Moving such quantities required organization, security, and above all, destinations where the treasure could be hidden from advancing Allied forces. The paper trail goes cold here, but fragments remain. A German railway official, interrogated by Polish authorities in 1946, testified that in late January or early February 1945, he helped coordinate the movement of special transport trains through Wrocław toward Wałbrzych. The trains, he stated, consisted of sealed boxcars under SS guard. Their bills of lading were classified, but railway workers observed that the trains rode low on their axles, a telltale sign of extremely heavy cargo. What happened when these trains reached the mountains? That's where witness testimony becomes both more specific and more difficult to verify. The first reports emerged even before Germany surrendered. In April 1945, as Soviet forces occupied Lower Silesia, Red Army intelligence units began interrogating German prisoners and local civilians about Nazi activities in the region. One declassified report describes information obtained from a German railway official captured near Wałbrzych. The official told interrogators about an armored transport that had arrived from Wrocław in February 1945, carrying valuables and gold from the Reichsbank. According to his account, the cargo was unloaded under heavy SS guard and taken into tunnels. The train itself was then hidden or destroyed. The Soviet report notes that efforts were made to locate this cargo, but the tunnel systems proved too extensive and many entrances had been destroyed or concealed. By the time Soviet engineers could begin systematic exploration, the immediate priorities of securing the region and processing thousands of German prisoners took precedence. The hunt for buried treasure became secondary. Polish authorities, taking control of the region after the Potsdam Conference formally transferred Lower Silesia to Poland, continued investigating. Between 1945 and 1960, the Polish government mounted at least 7 official searches of the tunnel complexes around Wałbrzych and Książ Castle. They found ammunition stores, abandoned equipment, and the tragic remains of forced laborers executed in the final days of Nazi occupation. They found evidence of hasty evacuations, papers burned, equipment destroyed, collapsed tunnel entrances, but they found no train and no significant treasure cache. However, witness testimony continued to accumulate. In 1959, a man named Hans Kistner came forward with an extraordinary claim. Kistner had been a junior officer in the German army assigned to security duties in Lower Silesia in early 1945. He provided Polish investigators with a detailed account of being ordered, along with a small unit, to guard a freight train that arrived at a tunnel entrance near the village of Ludwikowice in late February 1945. The train, he stated, was sealed and under SS jurisdiction. His unit's orders were to prevent anyone from approaching. After approximately 2 days, he and his men were withdrawn. Shortly afterward, he heard explosions from the direction of the tunnel. Kistner's account was specific about location and timing, but he could provide no proof. Polish authorities investigated the area he described and found evidence of tunnel construction and demolition, but no train. His testimony was filed in government archives and largely forgotten. The legend might have ended there, one of countless unverified World War II treasure stories, except for the persistence of local memory. Residents of Wałbrzych and surrounding villages passed down stories they'd heard from German civilians fleeing westward in 1945. These refugees, so the stories went, spoke of a train laden with gold and art that had been hidden in the mountains. Details varied, but the core narrative remained consistent across multiple tellings. One particularly compelling account surfaced in the early 1970s. A former Wehrmacht soldier living in West Germany contacted a Polish researcher investigating Project Riese. The soldier, using a pseudonym and refusing to be officially identified, claimed to have been part of an engineering unit that helped conceal a train in a tunnel near Wałbrzych. According to his account, after the train was positioned, his unit used explosives to collapse the tunnel entrance and then camouflaged the site. He provided rough coordinates based on memory, but when Polish investigators surveyed the area, terrain changes from post-war construction and natural erosion made precise identification impossible. The Polish government's official position, established by the 1980s, was skeptical. While acknowledging that the Nazis had certainly evacuated valuables to Lower Silesia, and while confirming the existence of extensive tunnel complexes, authorities found no conclusive evidence of a hidden treasure train. The story was classified as local legend. Interesting, perhaps based on fragments of truth, but ultimately unverifiable. Yet the whispers never stopped. Treasure hunters, both amateur and professional, continued exploring the region. Every few years, someone would claim to have found evidence: an old railway tie, a collapsed tunnel entrance, anomalous ground-penetrating radar readings. None led to the train. Then, in September 2015, two men made a claim that would change everything. On August 28, 2015, the law firm of Jarosław Chmielewski in Wrocław, Poland, received an unusual communication. Two men, Piotr Koper, a Pole, and Andreas Richter, a German, claimed to have located the Nazi gold train. Through their attorney, they contacted both Polish cultural authorities and the office of the Wałbrzych district, offering to reveal the train's location in exchange for a 10% finder's fee as stipulated under Polish law. The claim was backed by ground-penetrating radar images that the men asserted showed a train-shaped object buried approximately 30 feet underground near the railway line between Wrocław and Wałbrzych, close to the 65th kilometer marker. The GPR images appeared to show a linear object approximately 150 meters long, with what could be interpreted as individual car segments. Koper and Richter stated they had been led to the location by information from a deathbed confession, allegedly from a man who had participated in hiding the train in 1945. The response was explosive. Within days, international news outlets were running headlines about the discovery of the legendary Nazi gold train. The Polish government convened emergency meetings. Deputy Culture Minister Piotr Żukowski held a press conference on September 15, 2015, stating he was 99% certain the train existed based on the evidence presented. The site near Kilometer 65 became an overnight sensation. Treasure hunters from across Europe descended on the area. Polish authorities were forced to cordon off the location and post 24-hour security to prevent unauthorized digging. The local economy experienced an immediate transformation. International journalists, documentary crews, and curious tourists flooded into Wałbrzych. Hotels filled to capacity. Restaurants reported record business. Entrepreneurs began selling gold train merchandise. But the scientific investigation told a different story. In November 2015, Polish authorities granted permission for official exploration of the site. The process began with detailed ground-penetrating radar surveys, conducted by professional geological teams using equipment far more sophisticated than Koper and Richter's initial scans. As the data accumulated through late 2015 and into 2016, initial excitement cooled. While the ground-penetrating radar showed anomalies, areas of higher density that could indicate buried metal or concrete structures, The patterns were not clearly consistent with the train. In August 2016, a team from AGH University of Science and Technology in Krakow completed a comprehensive survey and delivered their official report. While underground structures and anomalies existed at the site, there was no clear evidence of a buried train. The patterns visible in the radar data could be explained by various underground features related to wartime tunnel construction and post-war industrial activity. Polish authorities announced that while they would not prohibit Koper and Richter from pursuing further investigation at their own expense, the government would not fund excavation based on the available evidence. The deputy culture minister, who had expressed 99% certainty, now acknowledged the surveys had not confirmed the presence of a train. Koper and Richter disputed the findings. They maintained their belief that the train was there and that further investigation with different methods would prove them correct. However, without government support, the cost and complexity of excavation made immediate progress impossible. The media circus dissipated. Tourists stopped coming. The security cordon was removed, but the story did not end. The 2015 claim, despite its inconclusive result, had reignited international interest in the Nazi gold train legend. Historians revisited archives. New witnesses came forward with stories they or their families had kept private for decades. The Polish government opened previously restricted files related to post-war searches of the Project Riese tunnels, and researchers began asking more fundamental questions. What exactly was evacuated to Lower Silesia? How much of it was recovered? And what does the historical record actually prove? To understand whether a treasure train could exist, we must examine what the Nazis actually moved in the final months of the war. The Reichsbank's evacuation is the best documented and provides the clearest proof that the legend, whatever its specifics, is rooted in historical fact. On April 4, 1945, American forces from Patton's Third Army made an extraordinary discovery. Following a tip from displaced persons, soldiers entered the Merker salt mine in Thuringia and descended nearly 2,100 feet underground. What they found stunned even battle-hardened veterans. In vast chambers carved from salt, the Reichsbank had hidden a fortune. Gold bars stacked floor to ceiling, canvas bags filled with gold coins, crates of currency from a dozen nations. The U.S. military conducted a meticulous inventory. Gold bars worth $238 million at 1945 exchange rates, approximately $3.5 billion today. The cash included currency from multiple countries, bags of gold wedding rings, dental gold, and over 1,300 bags of precious metals and jewelry taken from concentration camp victims. General Dwight Eisenhower personally visited the mine to witness the discovery. Photographs show American officers standing amid stacks of gold, the scale of Nazi theft made visible in a single underground vault. But Merkers raised an immediate question. If this much wealth was hidden in one location, how much more remained hidden elsewhere? Reichsbank records, captured by American forces and now housed in the U.S. National Archives, show that Merkers was one destination among several. Between February and April 1945, the Reichsbank systematically moved hundreds of tons of gold bars, thousands of bags of gold coins, and massive quantities of foreign currency to locations in Bavaria, Thuringia, and Austria. When these caches were captured by American, British, and French forces in April and May 1945, they accounted for a substantial portion, but not all, of the Reich's known reserves. The critical question is, how much was sent east to Lower Silesia before that region fell to Soviet forces in February 1945? Soviet records provide fragmentary answers. Red Army trophy brigades reported finding gold and valuables in various locations across Lower Silesia, including in tunnel complexes associated with Project Riese. However, Soviet documentation is frustratingly incomplete. Items recovered by Soviet forces were transported to Moscow with limited public accounting. One revealing Soviet intelligence report from May 1945 describes the interrogation of a German banker captured in Wrocław. The banker told interrogators that in January 1945, he had helped arrange the transfer of gold bars and substantial quantities of currency from the Reichsbank's Wrocław branch to secure storage facilities in the Wałbrzych region. The report notes that follow-up investigation failed to locate this gold. German railway records add another piece to the puzzle. Partially preserved documents show a dramatic increase in special transport trains moving through Lower Silesia in January and February 1945. A transport manifest discovered in German Federal Archives shows that on February 9, 1945, a train consisting of 48 cars left Wrocław classified as Special Transport 4722. Its cargo is listed only as Reich property, high value. The train's destination, Fürstenstein, the German name for Książ Castle. The train was assigned 2 anti-aircraft cars and a security detail of 32 SS personnel, unusually heavy protection for ordinary military cargo. The train's arrival and fate are not recorded in surviving documents. Could this have been the gold train of legend? Possibly. Or it could have been one of many high-value transports that moved through the region in those chaotic final months. The truth may be less dramatic than a single treasure train, but more complex. Multiple transports, various hiding places, and wealth scattered across a region rather than concentrated in one mythical cache. What seems clear is this. Substantial quantities of gold, art, and valuables were evacuated to Lower Silesia in early 1945. Much of this material was never recovered by Allied or Polish authorities. Some was certainly taken by Soviet trophy brigades. Some was undoubtedly looted by local residents and German refugees. And some portion, how much remains unknown, may have been successfully hidden in the Project Riese tunnels and never found. Today, portions of the Project Riese tunnel network are accessible to visitors, offering both insight and mystery. The Osovka complex, one of the largest accessible sections, extends more than 2 kilometers into the mountain. Walking through its main tunnel, wide enough for trucks to drive through, visitors encounter side chambers, ventilation shafts, and connecting passages that branch in multiple directions. The concrete walls, still solid after 80 years, testify to the engineering ambition of Project Riese. But what strikes most visitors is how much remains unknown. Sealed passages block access to significant portions of the complex. Flooded shafts descend to depths that have never been explored. Cave-ins and deliberate demolitions have closed tunnels whose extent can only be estimated through ground-penetrating radar. Those surveys suggest additional chambers and passages that have never been entered in modern times. The Książ Castle complex presents similar mysteries. Beneath the magnificent Renaissance and Baroque castle, tunnels connect to the broader Project Riese network. In 2015, researchers from the Książ Castle Foundation used ground-penetrating radar to map underground structures in the castle's vicinity. Their findings confirmed the existence of chambers and tunnels not currently accessible, including what appear to be sealed rooms beneath the castle's south wing. Mining safety concerns prevent full exploration. Lower Silesia's geology includes areas prone to rock instability, flooding, and toxic gas accumulation. The tunnels were excavated quickly during wartime, often without proper safety measures. Decades of abandonment have worsened structural problems. Polish mining authorities classify large sections of the Project Riese complexes as too dangerous for entry without extensive engineering preparation. Preparation that would cost millions and risk disturbing what is, ultimately, a mass grave. This inaccessibility fuels speculation. If significant portions of the tunnel network cannot be safely explored with current technology and budgets, how can anyone definitively state that a hidden train or treasure cache does not exist? Modern technology provides some answers, but raises new questions. In 2019, a team from the Polish Geological Institute conducted a comprehensive survey using technologies not available during the 2015 to 2016 investigation. Their findings, published in a technical report, confirmed the presence of linear underground features consistent with tunnel construction or buried infrastructure. However, the report emphasized a crucial distinction. Identifying underground features and determining their contents are vastly different challenges. Without excavation, certainty is impossible. Excavation carries enormous costs and risks. Beyond the financial burden, any major dig in the region requires extensive permitting, archaeological supervision, and explosive ordnance disposal precautions. The area around Wałbrzych still contains unexploded bombs and artillery shells from the war. Legal questions further complicate matters. Under Polish law, any treasure discovered is state property, with finders entitled to a 10% reward. The Polish government supports historical preservation and archaeological investigation of the Project Riese sites, but does not fund speculative treasure hunting. Despite these challenges, the search continues. In 2025, new teams obtained permissions for investigation using next-generation ground-penetrating radar. Applications for exploration permits remain on file with Polish authorities. Each investigation yields fragments of information, but not the conclusive discovery that would solve the mystery. And beneath it all lies the question that has driven the legend for 8 decades. If the Nazis went to such lengths to hide their stolen wealth, if witnesses reported trains entering mountains and not emerging, if documents confirm evacuations to Lower Silesia that cannot be fully accounted for in recovered treasure, then where did it all go? 79 years after the last Nazi trains moved through Lower Silesia, what can history actually confirm about the gold train legend? The evidence proves that the Nazis evacuated substantial valuables to Lower Silesia in early 1945. Documents confirm this. The evidence proves that Project Riese was a massive underground construction effort, far larger than required for its stated purposes. The tunnels exist. The evidence proves that much of the wealth evacuated east was never recovered by Allied forces or adequately documented in Soviet trophy record. Something remains unaccounted for. What the evidence cannot confirm is a single, specific train loaded with treasure and hidden in a particular tunnel. No document decisively proves this. No witness testimony, however compelling, has provided verifiable details that led to a discovery. Historians who have studied the question most carefully tend toward a nuanced interpretation. Dr. Joanna Lamparska, a researcher at the Polish Academy of Sciences who has examined wartime documents and post-war investigations for years, argues that the gold train has become a symbolic representation of broader historical fact. The legend captures a truth, she stated in a 2018 interview. The Nazis did steal massive quantities of gold, art, and valuables. They did try to hide this wealth as they lost the war. Lower Silesia was one hiding place, but the idea of one specific train, perfectly preserved in a sealed tunnel waiting to be discovered. That is likely imagination shaped by fragments of real events. Yet even skeptical historians acknowledge the possibility. We cannot prove it does not exist, Dr. Lamparska continued. The tunnels are real, the evacuations happened, documents are incomplete until every meter of those tunnels is mapped and explored, if that is even possible. We cannot close the case completely. For the residents of Wałbrzych, the legend has become part of local identity. The city has embraced its role in the mystery, with tours of the Riese complexes attracting thousands annually. A restaurant near Książ Castle serves gold train schnitzel. A hotel offers treasure hunter packages. The legend, regardless of its factual basis, has become economically valuable. But beneath the tourism lies a darker reality that must not be forgotten. Project Riese was built by slave labor. Thousands of forced laborers worked in horrific conditions. Disease, starvation, and execution killed approximately 5,000 people during construction, though the true number may be higher. Their bodies, in many cases, were buried in unmarked graves or dumped in the very tunnels they had carved. When we talk about the gold train, we should remember that any gold in those tunnels was stolen, much of it from people who were murdered, notes historian Tomasz Strzembosz. The real story of Project Riese is not adventure, it is horror. This perspective adds moral weight to the question of whether the search should continue. If treasure exists, it should be recovered, not for wealth, but because these are stolen items that rightfully belong to the families and nations from whom they were taken, or to museums that can preserve them as historical testimony. But the search must be conducted with respect for the site's nature as a memorial, not merely as a treasure hunt. On a cold morning in Lower Silesia, mist settles into the valleys around Wałbrzych. The Owl Mountains rise dark against the dawn sky, their slopes covered in pine forest, their hidden tunnels silent beneath tons of rock. Somewhere in those mountains, perhaps, lies the answer to one of World War II's most persistent mysteries. Or perhaps the mystery is itself the answer, a reminder that history refuses to reveal all its secrets, that some questions outlast the generations that first asked them. The search continues. In 2025, new teams announced plans to use advanced ground-penetrating radar to survey previously unexplored areas near Project Riese. Applications for exploration permits remain on file with Polish authorities. Elderly witnesses still occasionally come forward with stories handed down from parents or grandparents who lived through the war years. But whether the train is found or remains hidden, the legend has already accomplished something significant. It has kept attention focused on the historical reality of Nazi looting, on the scale of theft that the Third Reich perpetrated, and on the fact that much of what was stolen has never been returned. It has preserved the memory of Project Riese and the prisoners who died building it. It has made those mountains in Poland a destination for people who want to understand this dark chapter of history. The gold train, real or legendary, reminds us that the Second World War left mysteries as well as certainties. It reminds us that beneath the surface of what we know lies the unknown, literally beneath the surface of the earth. And it reminds us that history is not only what is documented, but also what is remembered, searched for, and wondered about. February 1945. A train enters a mountain. 79 years later, the mountain has not given it back. Perhaps it never will. But as long as those tunnels remain beneath the Owl Mountains, as long as documents hint at evacuations whose destinations cannot be confirmed, as long as witnesses remember stories of hidden treasure, the possibility endures. And with it endures the responsibility to remember not just the gold, but the people from whom it was stolen and the people who died building the tunnels where it may lie hidden. The mountain knows. The mountain does not tell, and so we search, not for adventure, but for truth, for restitution, and for the voices of those the Nazis tried to silence forever. If this story moved you, challenged you, or helped you see the Second World War differently, it would be an honor to have you join our growing community. Subscribing isn't just a click. It's a way to support more powerful stories, more forgotten voices, and more truth from the past. So if you believe these stories matter, hit that subscribe button and let's keep building this journey together. And don't forget to leave a comment. We read everyone and love hearing your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring history with Epic War. Keep asking questions. Keep seeking the truth.